Hello and welcome. My name is Meepolis, they, she, he, and this is Literally Graphic. And today we're flipping through the apparently discontinued comic Bayou by Jeremy Love. Content notes for violent and verbose anti-black racism, although the N-word is censored, violence against children, violence against animals, racist caricatures, death of a parent, and peeing in fear. Looking at the tags on Goodreads, where it shows up in my local library, and some of the awards it won, this is clearly categorized as a young adult book, which is indeed a bit of a wide category, and I'll take their word for it, but psychologically it definitely felt very similar to the Vertigo titles I've been going through, although minus the sex and nudity. So perhaps that is what made the difference in 2007. Getting to the publisher, Bayou was apparently originally published under the briefly lived DC webcomic imprint called Zuda Comics, and they existed between 2007 and 2010. Bayou also reminded me of the Glyph Awards, hosted 99% of the time by the East Coast Black Age of Comics Convention, based in Philadelphia. I had apparently liked their Facebook page previously, but ADHD had wiped it completely from my memory. That said, now I've made a spreadsheet of all the winners between 2006 and 2020, playlists of winner reviews coming shortly. The convention and award are returning this year, next month, with an outdoor event as well. I only brought that up because when it came out, Bayou won 5 Glyph Awards. Putting that aside for just a brief moment, as this is one of my Black Comic TBR picks, let us briefly highlight Book Nerd TV. They've been around for almost exactly 2 years, of which I've been following her for at least one. Her selection is wide, including audiobooks, and she always has interesting things to say about each book she picks up. Links in the description to both her channel and the Glyph Awards Facebook page. Looking into Jeremy Love, according to their Goodreads profile, he, quote, is an award-winning writer, illustrator, and animator. His critically acclaimed serialized graphic novel Bayou from DC Zuda was nominated for an Eisner Award for Best Digital Comic and won 5 Glyph Awards. Making his debut over a decade ago, Love has also worked on creator-owned projects for Dark Horse, Fierce, and Shadowrock, on established properties such as G.I. Joe, Batman, and Fraggle Rock, and on various animated projects. What kinds of keywords came to mind reading this cliffhanger duology? Alice in Wonderland, Jim Crow, sharecropper, single parent, folk tales, fairies, traditional stories, and white supremacy. Returning to the Goodreads, the description there is, quote, south of the Mason-Dixon Line lies a strange land of gods and monsters, a world parallel to our own, born from centuries of slavery, civil war, and hate. Lee Wagstaff is the daughter of a black sharecropper in the Depression-era town of Charon, Mississippi, when Lily Westmoreland, her white playmate, is snatched by agents of an evil creature known as Bog. Lee's father is accused of kidnapping. Lee's only hope is to follow Lily's trail into the fantastic and frightening alternate world. Along the way, she enlists the help of the benevolent blues-singing swamp monster called Bayou. Together, Lee and Bayou trekked across a hauntingly familiar Southern Neverland, confronting creatures both benign and malevolent, in an effort to rescue Lily and save Lee's father from being lynched. End quote. Starting with the art, it is extremely well done in my humble opinion, rich colors, nice lines, and deeply thought out character designs. The writing was also top-notch in my opinion, filled with references to traditional black stories of so-called North America. While this might just reflect badly on my own reading taste, the only similar title that immediately came to mind was the Lovecraft Country TV show, which is obviously pretty different, even if it has a similar nightmare quality to it. And as almost everyone else says in their reviews, it would have been really cool to actually get to read the entire series. Race is obviously the focus of Bayou Volumes 1 and 2, more particularly the ugly impact of white supremacy on black people in Jim Crow so-called America, in a way that still centers very active black characters. In the first volume, we also get a brief aside/foreshadowing about Lee's Choctaw ancestor. Without listing them out, the language used to talk about this indigenous history is about the same level of not really PC as the words that many characters use to describe blackness. I'm not the one to really grade this representation. Class is similarly highly present in the comic, obviously extremely interwoven with Lee and her father's experience of race. The comics is not a Marxist breakdown of the woes of racial capitalism, but we do see the love, strength, and care of poor people. which is still not as ubiquitous in my comic book reading as I would like. Gender and sexuality came up a bit. Obviously, the families of Lee and Lily are both pretty cliche nuclear units with the not entirely unique trope of dead mother. That said, this duology definitely was going in a coming-of-age direction in my opinion, so in Volume 2 we start unpacking the story that Lee has of what happened to her mother, which does involve a hint at less than monogamous things. So it definitely felt like gender and sexuality would have played more of a role if the series had continued. Disability didn't seem to come up, although again, I'm not the final arbiter on that. That said, as Lee descends into the world of Bayou, she meets many monstrous-looking creatures. Some of them help her, and some of them hurt her. But there is no ugly bad, pretty good dichotomy, which is more than I can say about some other comics. To conclude, it is extremely difficult to give a definitive rating to something that ends on such an incomplete note, but I think I'll settle on 4 out of 5 stars. I'll certainly pick up anything else by Jeremy Love that crosses my path. Bye y'all, keep reading and organized, and capitalist depression. And as always, Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, non-Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.